Due to illness, the roles of the nice guys on Business Today will be played by Beavis and Butthead. We apologize for the inconvenience.
Right. The only thing stopping us is really that narrative, that's that inner dialogue that's going on in our head that's saying, you can't do that, it's not going to work. And whether it's in your own voice or someone once told you it's not going to work, that's the thing that stops us. We get addicted to that story. We play this movie in our head over and over again, or we'll have references. We get addicted to telling this horror story, right? I don't know if you have any of those people, if you're having a bad day and you go, oh man, this whatever happened. And then they go, oh, you think that's bad.
Human beings were not meant to sit in little cubicles staring at computer screens all day, filling out useless forms and listening to 8 different bosses drone on about mission statements. We were meant to listen to the Nice Guys on Business podcast. Need an education on how to grow your business? The Nice Guys are here to help. Learn about great customer service, networking, and how just being nice can help you prosper. Now, here are your hosts, Doug Sandler and Strickland Bonner.
Hey, Funkin' fans, welcome back. It is Wednesday. We apologize for the length of yesterday's show. We're sorry. We appreciate if you stuck around to the end, but we know we kind of rambled. My name is Strickland Bonner. On the other side of the microphone, Mr. Doug Sandler.
Hey. Did you put a, what are those things called? An Easter egg. You haven't done Easter eggs in quite some time, Strickland. I'm a little bit.
No, I'm doing them every show, Doug. You're just not hearing them, right? You're missing them. That's not true. I'm not doing them every show. I
think that's the case.
I do them every once in a while. We haven't. Okay.
Are they that much extra work?
Sometimes it depends on what I've got. It's like if I have to, it depends. Like when we do let's say we do an intro to an interview, right?
Right.
You and I like shoot the shit a little bit before or after we do the actual, and sometimes we'll have a good thing that's an Easter egg. But if we don't do that, then it's like, okay, I've got to go find something that's an Easter egg. I got to hunt it down, and that's
I get it. It's a lot of work, and I the last thing I need you to do is throw in any extra effort to the show, because we both know that there's not a direct correlation between a really well run show and some surprise show and a successful business or anything like that, right?
So knowing that the time resources are limited, are you saying that you would like me to take some time away from turnkey systems so I can add more Easter eggs?
No. Are you still editing our episodes, or somebody else doing that?
I'm editing some of our episodes.
Answer the question.
Yeah, I'm editing some of our episodes. The problem with our episodes, again, and this is, look, if you tell me you don't think this is important, you let me know, right? I give out to an editor somebody to edit the body of our episodes, right?
Right.
But the intros, like I have 150 Steve-O intros.
I do. And I do like your newest ones, though. The playing the part of Doug and Strickland today,
right?
Ren and Stempy.
Right. I'm not comfortable passing the full edit of our episodes onto somebody, because it's like, okay, well, first of all, you got to find the parts being played by, and then you got to put the clip, and then you got to put the movie quote, and then you got to put the music, and then you got to put our intro, and then you got to pick an outro. I'm not comfortable having somebody else do all of that.
Okay.
So yes, I do have other people editing the body. So what I do is when I get that, all I have to do is the stuff that I just told you. I got to do the starting with, and then our intro and stuff. So instead of taking me an hour to edit an episode, it takes me 10, 15 minutes.
Okay.
And then I do the posting also, which obviously I'm very, I want to make sure it gets posted right and it's going up on time and all that. So
Funkin' fans, Nice Guy community, I let me just say thank you before we get to our interview here with Dug McGuirk, because 1.1 million downloads now. 1.1 million downloads, 120,000 downloads in the month of October. Wow.
We do an interview today, Dug McGuirk, and the guy's kind of amazing. I'm sure he's getting a little antsy going, when are they going to fucking talk about me?
And all we did was talk about his amazing wife on the show, I believe, because his wife is even more amazing than him.
That'd be hard to believe, because he's pretty freaking amazing. He does team building, motivation, but it's more than just a guy that's going to come in and do like Simon Says or a game show or something. I'm not like I'm talking about anybody in particular.
Wait, I was going to say, as you were talking, I'm like, there's got to be a good point in here somewhere. I'm not really sure where it is, but it's no, I
really shouldn't dig it. That, Doug, you go do team building like you do Simon Says and game shows. But honestly, I've never been to one of your team building events, so I really don't know that it's not as good as Doug's. But the thing with Doug's is he doesn't just focus on like the 1 minute. Okay, I'm going to come in and do team building and it's going to help you for the next hour or help you today. He looks at the whole big picture. He realizes that companies are built on the people. And so you need more than just today's team building event. It has to continue. It has to change the whole culture and change the feel. And he's all about, it's a total turnkey solution.
Yeah, and we do talk about, he has another side of him, palmhealthcare.com, and we talk about that a little bit, his road back from addiction and recovery, and what it means to get through rock bottom and get to the next step in your life. And this guy's an amazing guy. He really has overcome a huge amount of adversity in his life, and right with him, I would probably say one step ahead of him was probably his wife Heidi, and we talk about her a little bit on the show today as well.
I love it. I love it.
So should we? Let's get just really quick. Did we do an Interview Valet commeral today?
No,
or was that not today?
Tom Schwab. No, he didn't come from Doug. Didn't come from Tom Schwab, did he?
So Tom actually has set me up. You know, we in exchange for advertising on the show, he promised to set me up with some shows, and they're now coming through. So now it seems like every week I have a different show that I am actually going on. Okay. And there are a lot of much better podcasts than this one.
Come on. You don't need to tell me that. Come on.
Just so everybody knows. It's like, there are a lot of them. If you just go to Overcast, just go to the main menu, whatever the show is right next to us, to the right or to the left.
Any podcast to the left or to the right of us is going to be better.
But while you're
Doug, are you learning anything from them? Like, what can we take away from them to make our show better?
Well, let me just make my point here. While you're looking at Overcast to the left or right, just go ahead and hit our show and hit the little recommend button.
Yeah. You don't have to actually listen; just recommend, and then move on to that better show that's on the left or on the right.
Well, Danielle was telling me, my wife was telling me about this show called how it's an NPR show, How It's Built. I think it's called the name of the show. And I thought it was physically a show about physically how things are built, but they talk about like how businesses were built.
No, really? That's cool.
Yeah, exactly. It wasn't it's not like the Discovery Network show How It's Made.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
That's
right.
what I
exactly
thought it was. But that's not it. It's how the business was built. And one of the episodes that she was telling me about was this guy that came. Why are we going into this step?
I don't know. This is like totally Tuesday, Thursday.
All right. Anyway, we'll talk about this on another show. But anyway,
the other topic that I keep forgetting to bring up, S-Town, like the NPR podcast S-Town that everybody's raving about.
Oh, I don't know that one.
Oh my God, I couldn't have fucking hated it more.
Oh, really?
I loved it up until too much to get into now. We got to talk about it, I guess, next week.
Okay, but anyway, so while we're in the middle of this, so the point was Interview Valet has put me on these other shows, and I'm learning a lot of great things about how their guest management system works, like their intake, not guest management, I would say more like their intake system. Mm-hmm. We have a fucking kick-ass intake system. I have yet to find somebody's guest intake that's as good as the one that Mar has created for us. Honestly, it's just not only do we tell people what they need to do to get on our show, but we actually have an automated process that puts them through it. And I'm like, all of these great shows, and there's a lot of I can't mention any names, but there's a lot of really high-ranking shows that just have really meh kind of guest intakes. So that is not a glowing endorsement.
So basically, I asked you the question. You said there's so many better shows out there. What have you learned from them? I've learned that we're great. What? Okay.
As loose as we are, God damn it, Strickland, we're good.
Well, I agree with that, but it still would be nice to learn some things from some of these other.
Anyway, the interview process, a lot of these shows are really good. I've gone on a couple of shows that they put us on so far. Now that I am actually scheduling the interviews, some of the interviews are coming to light. These guys are good. So Interview Valet will connect you with those hosts that actually will ask you the right questions that will help you get your name and your brand and your business out there in the world for their audience. And that's the thing that I really thought that Tom would be able to do for us. And that's exactly what he has done. So just click on our show notes. Interviewvalet.com is the website, but right in the show notes is our affiliate link. If you use that, we get a little kickback in the action if you end up using them as a provider of services. Really cool guy. Tom and his team know what they're doing at Interview Valet. Okay. Let's
Is Doug going to be offended that we've barely talked about him in his intro?
No, we talked more about Heidi than I think we did Doug, but I think his wife would appreciate that probably more, and she's a lot prettier than he is anyway. He knows, and he spells his name kind of funny.
DUG.
DUG, Doug, and he tells about the origin of that and how that comes to play. So, great interview. Check it out right here on the Nice Guys on Business podcast. Dug McGuirk. Let's do it. Reinventing, recovering, or reviving life can oftentimes be a huge challenge, but no doubt it can also be a great story. And Dug McGuirk, host of the Real Deal on ... I mean, that was the ... is really the important part for me, because the ... is everything that happens next. He's a professional speaker. He's a podcaster. He's an expert in revolutionizing lives. I see it in action, and Doug is the real deal ... Welcome, Doug, to the Nice Guys.
Thank you so much, brother. I appreciate it.
You could have knocked me over with a feather. I'm not going to drop names quite yet as a part of this, but part of the pre-interview chatter Nice Guy community is I got to know Doug just a little bit more than what I found out on his website. And this is totally the real deal that's about to go down. So let's talk about some things here. You have a powerful message that you project, Doug. So why don't you tell our Nice Guy community? Let's start with what you feel most passionate about in what you do.
Awesome. Thank you. Well, ultimately, like you, my mission is to add value to people's lives, help them transform either their business, their personal, their professional life, wherever they're at. And to touch back a little teaser of what you had shared, my prior career many moons ago was in the music industry. And what I got so much out of as a producer, engineer, performer, and through that whole process, I found that helping people distract themselves from life at any time, whether it be 3 minutes for a song or, 2 hours at a show that I was performing in, I gave someone a release that, they could forget about the world for a while. And without getting into the challenges of the music industry, the peak of my career was when Napster came out. So after that, technology changed everything.
You just dated yourself.
I know, that's okay. I'm cool with that. It's I'm wise. There's a lot of wisdom right here. So
I want to know from your wisdom, just looking at your website, how you got such a hot chick as your wife. I mean, you definitely married her.
Oh my gosh, that is so true. And I'll tell you what, she's more talented and intense as a person than her beauty. So she is, we do stuff together. Like Revolutionary Growth is actually our joint venture. If you go in there, you'll see about Heidi. And we're going to be redoing that a little bit to bring her more in, because she is a phenomenal speaker, a phenomenal life transformer as well. And yeah, I'm so blessed. So yeah.
Absolutely. Get back to Napster. Napster. Sorry. I got distracted by your wife, but I'm sure that a lot of guys probably get distracted by your wife also.
I am so blessed. I don't know if I've done something amazing that I don't know about, or I'm about to do something tremendous to be, blessed with her. So Napster peaked, and so did my career, and the technology that had created Napster also changed. I mean, the fact that we're having this conversation the way we are doing it 15 years ago would never happen. Because of the technology, we don't need to be in a studio the way we used to be and so forth. So the industry took a shift, and I had to start over. I had to reinvent myself. And I looked at why I did what I did. And I was my success in the music industry, I'll start dropping a little bit of names here. Working
do
with,
it, man. Do it.
I started out as an intern, literally worked for nothing, and worked my way up to staff producer for a major organization. And we were doing Celine Dion, Mariah Carey, J-Lo. The guy who I partnered with at the time was the guy who discovered Taylor Dane. So that was whole era. And then I became the rock guy. And so we were winning these Grammy records, and we had a production company, a record label, and all that. So I'd seen every area of the business. That was how I was so blessed to work in so many different facets. And that's when I became friendly with Dee Snider, right? And that was the one that you're like, oh my gosh, it's like, Dee's amazing.
What a perfect guy to get involved with if you're trying to not have to deal with addiction at all.
Yeah. Well, actually, believe it or not, the funny thing about D is he's like the nicest guy and the straightest. Like,
I've heard that. I've actually heard that about him. I listened to him a number of times on the Howard Stern show early on in the day when he and Howard were buddies. Right. I don't know if they still are.
Yeah, they are to some degree, but Dee's doing his own thing now, and he had to reinvent himself. I actually met him at the peak of his career and then at the bottom, and then we stayed friends, and now he's back on, on top of his game. But what had happened was ultimately was that so I ended up co-producing the second Widowmaker record, and that was such a joy, such a blast. So what had happened was I went through this transformation where I had to reinvent. I had to start all over, and applying some of the tools. I became so successful because I was applying stuff I learned from Tony Robbins. Again, I'll date myself. The first thing of Tony's I ever listened to was Personal Power on cassette. Oh so I applied that, and that was how I became so successful in the music industry. Then I was like, all right, why do I do what I do? So I started, analyzing everything that I did, and I struggled with drugs and alcohol back at a young age, and I overcame that, and I started from nothing and got this great career going. And then I was like, I got to start over. Why do I do music? Like, what do I really, all the things that I did in the industry, why do I do it? And then I said, well, the reason is because I'm adding value to someone's life for a short period or a couple of hours, like distracting them, getting them out of the rat race and giving them a release and all of that. And then I went to a Tony Robbins event and I was like, oh my gosh, I get it. What if I could help people make music of their lives? What if I could help them create a symphony of their universe where they could have everything just flowing together and they could have all these wonderful parts happening at the same time? And that's what really excited me. So I went out and pursued that, and I became a master practitioner and trainer of neurolinguistic programming and neo-Ericksonian hypnosis. And I went out there, started coaching and helping people transform the bands. And I started helping. I was one of the first guys to start using, back then MySpace and that kind of stuff to help bands monetize, where they didn't need to have a record company anymore. We could find ways to monetize and build, tribes without having all of that.
So wait, so did all of this come after your struggle with addiction?
Oh, yeah.
Or did they come because I'm sorry, I just missed the part of the story where, you kind of just, the thing that became the catalyst for, it seems like a lot of the solutions in your life was that addiction. Can you just spend just a moment talking about that so I can understand why all of these other components of your life actually fit together quite nicely?
Of course. So I would imagine, like you, you're a pretty much go big or go home kind of guy. I imagine you don't do things small.
Well, I'm in my pajamas most of my day, so I don't do anything that's significant. I podcast,
but that's pretty. To build what you've done. That's what I mean. I mean, energetically, like you go for it. You're sitting here, I listen to your show. You and Strickland are, you're intense. You guys are,
total.
You go big.
Yeah, what you see is what you get. Big, yeah. I definitely balls to the wall.
That's what I meant.
That's been my prayer. Yeah, I know. I was just
I don't know. Some people, like their humility gets the better of them. So, I appreciate
only when it comes to income, my humility gets the better.
Fair enough.
It's fine. I let that go. If I can have a big ego but a small bank account, I feel really comfortable at that point.
Excellent.
So, all right. So keep rolling.
Right, so at I growing up, I had two emotions. I was pissed or I was depressed. Like, that was really it. I was like either super violent or I was like the emo kid. And growing up, I was the metalhead, the dirtbag, the stoner, all of that. And I just felt so misunderstood. I felt like nobody got me. I was a misfit on the island of misfit toys. Like, I felt like I couldn't fit in anywhere. And drugs and alcohol became an outlet for me, where that, and this is in my, my teens. And I will say that I applied, and this is why I do what I do here and help people with addiction and beyond, is because when I was like 19, 20 years old, I don't even remember how old I was specifically. I know I was driving, that I made a decision one night that I was done. Like, I was like, I can't do this anymore. I'm destined for more. With humility, I say that. Like, if I'm one with God, I'm not adding any value by destroying myself here. I'm not serving. I'm not a servant leader.
How did you, at a 19 or 20 or whatever that age, in your late teens, early 20s, how did you have the maturity to be able to say that? I just don't think there's enough people that can especially being as misfit as you were, or as alone as you were. How do you have the ability to overcome that? I mean, what was their inspiration at that time?
I think at the time, and I got to edify Tony, at 17 was when I got that personal power. And I started listening to it. Actually, my mom I came home drunk one night. I'm like, Mom, give me your credit card. And she's like, why? And I'm like, go with the Tony Robbins guy. The guy with the big teeth. I like the cut of his jib. I don't know. We want that personal power. And she's like, we have it, honey. And I go downstairs. She never opened it. She bought it and never opened it. And I started listening to it. And I actually applied. And it took me a couple of years, right? Because I was still struggling. But then one day, I'll be honest with you, it was like at the time, again, dating myself, it was when crack was like all the rage. And I had a serious cocaine problem. I was doing like an 8-ball a day, and like it was nuts. And I started smoking it, and it was like, it was a disaster. I was not a good, like, steward.
So I would have to imagine that, again, late teens, early 20s kind of guy doing that having that kind of addiction, that must have meant that had to be some kind of thievery going on too.
Yeah.
How do you earn that kind of money?
You don't. So yeah, no, I have misbehaved. Fortunately, the only times I ever got caught was, the kinds of things I got caught for were, driving while under the influence. But, I was not a good person. I was not behaving well. So we went out to the crack house and got that first hit. And, of course this is the blessing, right? And I think this was a God moment for me. Essentially, we do that first hit and I was like, oh my gosh, I get it, right? It was intense. And but it wore off pretty quick. And I was like, all right, let's go get some more. And we went back and got more. And I took that second hit and it didn't work the same. It didn't have that same intensity. And fortunately, I guess this is where the PSAs were of some value. There was always that talk of that chase.
This is your brain.
Yeah, kind of, right?
That one. Yeah.
Talked about how, that first hit is so intense and you'll be spending the rest of your life chasing that high. And for whatever reason, that night, God came in. The Holy Spirit, what's something? I'm not here to preach or whatever you believe, but something bigger than me came in and was like, McFly, what are you doing? And in that moment, I made a decision. I made a decision. I said, no more. I said, I have to be here for something more than this and where I'm going. And I essentially did a process that I do with our clients and Tony still does to this day. He calls it the Dickens process. And really what it does is you just create it's really temporal dynamics, right? So you look at your past and what you've done. You kind of look at the present, what's happening now, and then you blow it up for the future. And I just made a decision. I'm like, I'm done. And I quit everything that night. I quit smoking cigarettes. I quit smoking drinking. I quit smoking pot. I quit crack and coke and all of that. And now, mind you, it sucked for like a good while. But I made that decision. I'm like, I can't. And
have you ever explained or told this story to Tony Robbins' camp or anybody?
Yes, I've told Tony. He knows. That's why I'm here. I mean, I work in this field with his blessing, right? He knows I left working with Tony to come work in this field, because I wasn't going to work with Tony forever. Leaders, the purpose of leadership is to inspire more leadership. So I'd be incongruent and Tony would be incongruent if he was like, no, you got to stay working for me. Like that would be crazy because the goal is to create more people to affect positive change. So yeah, I shared it with him and that was, it was a wonderful experience to share with him, to just kind of thank him because that was really the messaging was like, dude, thank you. I'm alive because I was able to apply something that you put out there.
So all of that has led to, and it sounds like the addictions of life and you helping people understand the music that their life brings, that is all comes through in your professional speaking and your inspirational portion of your training. And then comes along this new opportunity for you to help people that are actually struggling with addiction as well, right? Is that where Palm Healthcare enters in, or is there
so I was on the road with Tony basically I went from the music to helping people make music of their lives with Tony, mastering and learning mentored by him on how to deliver this information. I got trained by him, the people that trained him, and like the breakthrough stuff, fire walks and glass walks and, hour breaking and all of those cool things. And now I incorporate that into my work with people here at Palm Healthcare in overcoming addiction. And really, drugs and alcohol aren't the problem. They've just been the strategy to manage how people feel, right? So the only reason why people watch television, go to the movies, go shopping, all of these vices, all of these experiences are just to because how we feel, right? It makes someone feel good, maybe, or a distraction, or to stop that. Again, when my idea with music was get out of my own head for a minute. So what I found is everybody struggles with something that's really keeping them stuck, right? The only thing stopping us is really that narrative, that's that inner dialogue that's going in our head that's saying, you can't do that, it's not going to work. And whether it's in your own voice or someone once told you it's not going to work, that's the thing that stops us. We get addicted to that story. We play this movie in our head over and over again, or we'll all have references. We get addicted to telling this horror story, right? I don't know if you have any of those people, if you're having a bad day and you go, oh man, this whatever happened. And then they go, oh, you think that's bad. Right. And then like you get into a competition on like, who's got, more effed up day. Like, you're trying to outdo each other. And we have this like woundology, like we're like sharing. It's like the pathology of sharing wounds. And that keeps us stuck. So what I do with our clients here at Palm Healthcare and then with Revolutionary Growth Beyond is to help people take beyond whatever story they're addicted to and help them rewrite a new one, help them understand why we do what we do, and then find more alternative ways to get there. And I'm not saying like, I always use this decision, and I'll ask you, have you ever made a bad decision?
Oh, yeah, many.
Well, I would argue you did not make a bad decision. You made a decision from a bad state or from a non-resourceful emotion, and then the outcome of that decision was bad.
Yeah, and my dad always says to me, or had always said to me before he passed many years ago, he said, listen, if you make a bad decision, it's okay to make the bad decision. Just don't make several more in addition to that one after you make that. You make the bad mistakes are bound to happen. It's what happens next that really counts. That's kind of the philosophy of life for me. And that's true. We do, you can't wallow in it. But so how does that kind of mentality help get people out of a state of, at Palm Healthcare, I'm assuming you're dealing more with people that have addictions to things rather than they're just trying to figure out the music of their lives.
True, but the detox is the easy part, right? Once you get off drugs and alcohol, that's easy. That takes a week, right? 3 to 7 days.
Oh, okay.
It's all of that after. It's that story that we tell. Like it's the conversation. It's the strategies that we use to feel better. It's how we use our bodies. It's how we're using our, what we're looking at, how we're focusing our perspectives. What kind of dialogue are we using on a consistent basis, right?
Hey, and help me for a second. And I apologize. I don't mean to interrupt because I think that you're going in a good stride. I have some deep curiosity just about the addiction process. And I know that I've had a couple of family members that have gone through it. And that is a huge struggle. And I know it's not one that I can relate to personally since I've never been through it. But help me for a moment. And something you said just kind of triggered it for me. You said it takes 3 to 7 days really to get off of that, drugs or alcohol or whatever you want. It's what happens next that really is the challenge. What is it that somebody feels after that 3 to 7 days? Because, whether it's a 30-day program that you're in an actual facility or beyond that in your home, what is it that your body goes through beyond those 3 to 7 days of just getting the drugs and alcohol out of your body?
So that's a great question. So there's a few things. One, the best way to describe it is, have you ever had the flu?
Yeah, of course.
So, after that 3 to 7 days of, getting off weaning off whatever medications to get you off of whatever drug of, choice that you were on, your body is now going, oh crap, I'm still feeling some form of withdrawal.
Right.
So it feels like the flu, feeling like sick, feeling all that. But more importantly, so the way our brain works is we have all these neurotransmitters of well-being, all these things that fire off to make us feel good. So that you've heard of dope, right? Dopamine.
Yeah, sure.
That's
dopamine.
It's in your brain.
Right.
Serotonin, GABA, all of these different neurotransmitters help us feel good. But what happens is when people consume various drugs, so alcohol and marijuana increase dopamine production by about 300%, opiates about 700%, and crack and meth about 1,200%. So what happens is the brain stops producing those neurotransmitters because over time it's being stimulated externally. So the body goes, I don't need to make it, because our bodies are really efficient. Our body goes, oh, I don't need to make it because it's being stimulated by this other stuff. So what happens is when someone stops that process, all of a sudden they're dopamine deprived. So now they have to find new ways to create dopamine themselves. And at first it feels horrible, right? It's just because your brain, you just don't feel good. You just feel lethargic. You feel depressed. You feel all of these things and you get manic, right? Because the brain is not regulated. So it takes up to a year for your brain to start getting back to homeostasis, where it's like, oh, okay, cool. It's kind of firing on all cylinders. And by the way, just as being a human, that's already going to fluctuate, right? So, I mean, we have moods, we have swings, we have, depending on, again, what strategies we're using, are we codependent with our environment? Do we not feel good unless we watch some TV? Or, I mean, think about it. What happens when people are driving? Why do people text and drive? Why are they checking their Facebook while they're on the road, while they're driving on the highway at, 80 or 60 miles an hour, whoever's driving? Why are they driving and being distracted?
I have no idea, and I have to admit I'm guilty of it as well. I have no idea what it is that I need to know. I have to have that information in front of me. It's just like it pulls me. That my phone pulls me.
Because it makes you feel something.
Oh yeah, that's true. It definitely makes me. It makes me feel.
It's a strategy.
Right.
In that moment. I'm feeling connected, or I'm maybe you're working on a business deal and you want to make sure that something's happening, and in that moment you get that thought. Oftentimes it's just because we're lonely. It's just because we're like sitting there going, oh man, I'm the only one in here in the car, and does someone care about me? Let me see, right? Let me go on there.
It's almost like I prefer to be driving by myself, so I have the ability to be connected to somebody else,
right?
Which makes no sense at all.
But that's right, and then when you go, oh wait a minute, that's why I'm doing it. Then you go, oh, I don't have to do that. I can pick up the phone and call somebody. I mean, which would be a little bit better, or take that moment and be like, you know what? Maybe I just need to be present with myself for a minute. Maybe just be okay with that, right? I mean, so many times. And that's really tough anyway, because even just sitting with ourselves, we're distracting ourselves from ourselves, because like our mind doesn't shut down, doesn't stop. So it's always having some sort of chatter. It's playing some movie in our head. And oftentimes, even if we hate the movie, it's like watching a train wreck, or, I mean, even I'm not to get political, because it's not about that, but
the train wreck of the politics,
right? Yeah. You look on, like, all you see is people being miserable on Facebook. Complaining about something. And I'm like, oh my gosh, here's the problem. Everybody is addicted to complaining because it's validating them. And of course, no one buys a newspaper that says 70 degrees and sunny. So it's not like, and as an example, I'll give you a great example. Let's bring Dee back into it. Dee was one of the first people to have a reality show on MTV. Kind of like, remember the Osbournes? Right? They had that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Dee was first. Do you know why that show did not work?
Because he's too nice and straight.
Yeah, it's just too normal. There was no stupidity.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Well, what people wanted to see was the real Dee Snider, and they wanted to see the twisted sister Dee Snider with the kinky hair, and they were thinking in their mind, and you explained this to me even before we hit record, is that he wasn't that guy that was, he wasn't the party animal with doing drugs and women and all that stuff in his life. He was a straight-laced guy in a metal world, and that was not what we wanted at the time.
Right, and his children are all, like, amazing. Like, his whole family has been, he and Suzette have been together, the entire time. The kids are brilliant, and they're so, like, everybody's just kind of healthy.
It's an act. It's an act.
Right.
It's his act. His Dee Snider, twisted sister Dee Snider is an act.
Right.
Yeah, amazing. So, okay, so help make the connection now. It seems like it's an easy connection to make, but, I'm not the smart one here, so why don't you help me make the connection? So the connection between the training, all of the things that you believe in, this whole philosophy, you then bring this over to Palm Healthcare. So make that connection for us.
So what I was brought in to do was create an environment that people could start applying the personal development philosophy to the rest of their life, so that drugs and alcohol are no longer their strategy of choice, so that they could create a life worth being sober for, so they could be the architects, the designers, the authors of their warrior's journey, and have a deeper understanding that they're not broken, that drugs and alcohol were not the problem. It became a problem over time, but at first, everyone experiments. Everyone gets, drinks a little or something, usually not everybody, but most people, if, kind of try it out. And then when it becomes too much, and then it gets incorporated into every other area of your life and so forth, then it can spin out of control. Then it affects the family. So Heidi and I, we do the family program, and we do that. Now we're about to launch a whole new, series of events for people, to go beyond recovery. And then with Revolutionary Growth, it's the same thing. It's helping people get past the story of drugs and alcohol, or television or sex or food or whatever, because the only thing that's really stopping us is this addiction to victimhood, where we come up with some excuse why we don't have this extraordinary life, whether it be the drugs, whether it be the TV, whether it was I was dropped on my head as a kid. Like, we all have this story that we're going to tell. We get addicted to it because it serves us, because like attracts like, right? So misery loves company, right?
Company,
but so does
right,
success.
right.
Successful people love successful people.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
So, what happens is when we tell that story and we give the excuses, we give all these reasons why I'm not the rock star and whatever it is that I want it to be, and here I'm not, then I surround myself with people who are like, yeah, me too, right? And then it justifies
that's the worst.
it. Yeah.
That's the worst.
And then
that's the worst.
we find a tribe of people that at least we feel, because our deepest need is this love, is connection, is to feel like we're part of something. So that's our deepest need. So then if we could find somebody who at least appreciates us for the failures that we are, well, then, that's better than nothing. Rather than challenging ourselves. And that's the work I do, is to help people challenge themselves, to elevate their psychology, to elevate their worthiness, to go, you know what? I can write a new story. I am the architect. I am the designer. I'm the author. I'm going to start writing a new story. And how do I do that? Well, I got to get into the right, I got to fuel myself with the right emotions. I got to state manage to a degree that I can walk into any situation knowing that I'll be able to figure it out. And I need to have so many strategies available to me that if one doesn't work, then I can find another. If that doesn't work, then I'll find another, or I'll find somebody who has a strategy. You know what? I'm going to surround myself with people who are masters at what they do. And then I'm going to start modeling their philosophy, their mindset. I'm going to start doing what they do so I could get the results that they have.
All right, so where do we go? Because while there is a common theme between everything that you do, there's that duality of the stuff that you also do out there in the marketplace. So one of them I've talked about, and you've talked about in detail, is Palm Healthcare, and the other is your professional speaking business. So if there was one thing, or maybe it's both, and certainly Nice Guy Community, feel free, that we're going to put all the links in the show notes to Doug's information. By the way, love the spelling of your name, D-U-G as opposed to D-O-U-G. Like
I have a cool story with that. I'll drop another name. So
yeah, go,
the
man,
owner of the studio, the two owners of the studio that I grew up in, that I got all my chops in, one was named Rick Wake. He's the guy that discovered Taylor Dane and all that. And the other guy was Richie Kanata. And he was the original sax player for all those big records with Billy Joel. He's the sax who played all those amazing solos. So Billy came and visited the studio. He was doing a record there. And so we met him, and Richie introduced me. He's like, hey, this is Doug, D-U-G, Doug. And Billy looks over to me and he goes, if Doug was my name, that's how I'd spell it too.
So is your God-given, is your birth-given name D-O-U-G-L-A-S, or is it just Doug?
Yeah, no, it's Douglas. The short version, the two reasons how I got the Doug was when I was like 15, 13, whatever, playing video games. If you recall, you could only do 3 letters.
Dig Doug.
Yep. So I used Doug there. Then, as I started getting older, I didn't get along with my family. So I decided, you know what? I'm just Doug, like no last name, D-U-G. That's it. So then in my music career, I was like, you know what? This is great. I'm just going to be Doug. That's it. No last name, D-U-G. And all my credits are D-U-G. Sometimes they have my last name. Sometimes they don't, but it's just D-U-G. Then,
I love it.
So that was that.
Yeah, go ahead.
Then I went with Tony, and I was like, it's probably not very corporate, right? So I was like, I put the O back in. So then I was, when I left Tony, I was with Tony. I was visiting a friend of mine who's in New York, actually the drummer, Joe Franco from Widowmaker and other stuff. I gave him my card for when I was working with Tony, and he looks at it and he goes, what's with the O? And he goes, dude, I'll know you're back when the O is gone. Yeah. So I was like,
that is very true. Yeah. That is very true. So what do we want to promote? I mean, again, we can promote both things, but where does your heart take you right now?
Well, my heart takes me is both, because they're sort of one and the same. So Palm Healthcare, if someone's struggling with addiction, man, it's a great resource. If you're a family member and you have questions, you could just go to helpingversushurting.com and download a checklist and watch a webinar and so forth of Heidi and I kind of sharing some philosophies on family dynamics, because that's where, ultimately our goal is to create more love in the world. I don't know if it's clear, but the love in revolution is the revolution, is infusing with love. And then revolutionary growth, man, if you're an organization and that you want to do some breakthrough experiences, you want to take leadership or sales to the next level. I do sales and leadership training. So if you want to take your teams to another level, whether it's coming in and doing an afternoon of like a breakthrough team building thing where we're doing, fire walking or fire eating or glass walking or board breaking or arrow breaking or any of those kinds of things to fire up the team. I do these breakthrough experiences to create a visceral experience so that the information gets stuck, right? I mean, it's like the difference of watching a roller coaster or getting on it.
So my question is, would you ever think that you'd see Kim Tracy breaking a board, from the Maxwell James?
Oh, we'll do it.
Just breaking a board with her head. Yeah, you would. I want to see her. I'd like. Can you break a board maybe for her? I mean, just hit it over her head.
Oh, no, that's a different thing. Well, you know what? One of the things we do is we break arrows with your neck. You put the point of the arrow in your neck.
No.
And then you break it with that.
Okay, come on. How does that work? Tell me how that works. There's got to be some level.
Well, hopefully successfully.
Yeah. Have you killed anybody yet?
No. Not as far as you know.
No, that's true. Oh my gosh. So Dug McGuirk, and I'm pronouncing your last name correctly, right? McGuirk. Okay. He is. We will make sure that we put links in the show notes to both revolutionarygrowth.com and palmhealthcare.com as well. Any other websites that you want to access, or is that?
No, you can find everything from there. Like on Palm Healthcare, Palm Healthcare sponsors The Real Deal at the moment. So all the episodes are up there, but you could also find them on revolutionarygrowth.tv or on Revolutionary Growth. And any resources, they're all sort of interconnected. It's really about, if you want to find a way to take your life to the next level, if you're listening to the show, clearly that's the kind of person you are. So you're in the right place. And if I could be part of that transformation, it would be my privilege.
And Dug has a podcast called The Real Deal on ... That's got to be the most challenging thing to have to explain ... But is the ... the everything else that comes beyond?
Right. So right now we're doing Reinvention, and what we'll do is cover a kind of like how Mike Rowe did Dirty Jobs. How he just kind of goes, and it'll be similar. So it'll be The Real Deal on. Right now it's Reinvention. So I'm unpacking people and reinventing their lives, oftentimes out of addiction because they have to reinvent, but also going into entertainment. Like, how many different things are there to do? You have a producer here on the show. Maybe, they don't like necessarily being on air, but they really love being in the environment. So there's so many opportunities in different areas. So people can be passionate about, sports or about music or about banking or about law. And there's other opportunities. You don't have to be the quarterback. You don't have to be the rock star to still be in that world and be fulfilled. And so The Real Deal On is ultimately going to be unpacking different areas to show the different opportunities within a genre so that people could get excited again and go, wow, I could still pursue my passion. I just, maybe being a songwriter is better than being the singer, right? Maybe I'm okay being a session guitarist rather than having to, be on stage. Like, there's so many ways that people can find fulfillment. And unfortunately, we get so conditioned by thinking that you have to be the quarterback, the rock star, the person, that's right up top, in front of in the spotlight, as it were, not knowing that it takes more people and more energy to make things happen that are they're equally as important. They just may not be as visible. So it's a way to celebrate them.
Dug, you are truly the real deal, and thank you so very much for not only sharing a little bit of behind the scenes with the rock and roll world, but obviously and definitely for sharing your information about how to get some help and how to get some understanding on what's going on in your head through those challenging times. Dug, thanks for being on the show today.
Thank you, my honor.
Hey, Nice Guy community, never underestimate the power of nice or the real deal on ... Steve O'Brien, go ahead and take us out of here.
Call 4242 DJ Dug and record an intro for the show to hear on a future episode. Say anything you want. Hell, take my job. I'm getting sick of these guys anyway. We still rolling? Just don't tell him I said that. Eager for action and hot for the game. The coming attraction, the drop of a name. They knew all the right people and took all the right pills. They threw outrageous parties and they paid heavenly bills. There were lines on the mirror, lines on her face. She pretended not to notice. She was caught up in the Nice Guys on Business podcast.
Yeah, these go to 11.